will triumph with lots of love. Lots of love, lots of love, lots of love, lots of love.
Hello darlings, it is I, Cruella DeVilish, aka Sukai Todd, and I'm here today to do a long-awaited, entirely overdue review of the 2021 film by a company I will not name, known as Cruella. And yes, these are all my purely subjective opinions, darling. To sum up my critiques of Cruella 2021, while I enjoyed most of it, I do think certain parts, such as the car chase scene with the police chasing Cruella in her garbage truck, was a bit elongated and did not need to be that long. And I feel like they could have played up more of Cruella and Jasper's relationship that I do ship shamelessly in terms of the movie. Also, I think one other critique is that the mommy issues are slightly downplayed and not fully understood by a lot of the people who watched it. Also, I will link a video to a great fashion channel who helped explain most of the fashion from Cruella and why it is really great. So, link to that video will be below. I believe the channel's name is Hot Le Mode. The House of Sukai definitely approves of Hot Le Mode. Oui. Now, onto the review itself. I think Cruella is a 10 out of 10 overall for films. For those who just want the quick ones, this is what I think. Cruella 2021 is a 10 out of 10 in my opinion. Please watch it on your own time in order to form your own opinions, and understand you do not have to agree with me in order to enjoy watching this review. If you see something in it that I do not, darlings, then please share and let me know. And with all that said, please be respectful and kind in the comments, or I shall turn them off or block you. And darlings, you do not want to be blocked by Sukai Todd. It's not a pleasant thing. Now we will be getting into individual characters, as I do with most of my movie reviews. So look forward to that. And yes, I will be doing reviews on the more marvelous, wink wink, movies soon. However, I had to do this one first. Ignore them. Didn't I just say, I am woman, hear me roar? Firstly, Estella's evolution into fully embracing Cruella was quite brilliant in my opinion. She started out very split within herself, and yes, I do acknowledge that there were mental illnesses that were slightly brushed over within the film in my opinion. However, I think it wasn't solely due to mental illness. I think part of it was nature versus nurture. Her adopted mother, who unfortunately died due to Dalmatians pushing her off a cliff, very unfortunate, that traumatized her and possibly caused the already forming duality and paradoxical nature of Cruella. However, I do think Cruella, the inner Cruella that was lying underneath Estella's red hair, was a character, or rather an alter ego, that was truly a part of who she is and who she was. And Emma Stone's performance as Estella, aka Cruella, was quite enjoyable to watch. her designing was brilliant. And I feel like Emma Stone worked very hard to become Cruella. And the entrance at the black and white ball was perfect. And of course, I have to get into my ships of this film as well, so we will get into that soon. Darlings, do not worry. But I think it's important to note that Cruella does symbolize more than just dark and light. In Cruella 2021, it is not all just black or white. Or if you prefer, darlings, black and white. There is a certain level of greyness to everything. I feel like Cruella DeVille has a certain grey area to her. So with all that said, let's get into the next character. Horace and Jasper. Well, mainly Jasper and Cruella, because I ship them very hard. But in the scheme of the movie, of course, I'm not talking about in real life, because I don't know Emma Stone, nor do I know Joel Fry, so I will not claim that. However, I enjoyed Emma Stone's work as Cruella alongside Joel Fry as Jasper. I think Jasper and Cruella are quite a handsome couple. I hope that in Cruella 2, which will hopefully come out next year or sometime in the future, I hope, please, darlings, do me justice in Cruella 2, my dears. But I hope that they are officially a couple in Cruella 2, as I feel like they had a very strong chemistry. Not just familial, but more so romantic. I feel that there was a romantic chemistry there that made a lot of sense given that they grew up together. And it seemed like Jasper, at least from my subjective personal interpretation, does love Cruella romantically. And I feel that Cruella does love Jasper, possibly more than just family or friendship. Yes, they have a bit of transactional moments within their personal relationship together, as something we will touch on later, within Cruella's evolution and search for revenge. However, I do ship Cruella and Jasper. Jasper was the insightful one. Again, annoying. I also loved all the dogs, including Genghis, and of course Wink. Wink, we all respect Wink. And Genghis was a woman. Spoiler alert, darlings. Genghis was not a male dog, but a female dog. How shocking. Not to me. I suspected it. But of course, that was a little more than midway through the movie. So let us continue with our next character. She is quite a triple threat in the movie. The Baroness. The mother. Hello, mother. The Baroness, part of the quote-unquote mummy issues. You see, I feel that Emma Thompson's performance as the Baroness has been one of her best to date. Though she has done more since, and I hope to see her return as the Baroness in the hopefully being worked on sequel for Cruella 2021. However, I feel that the Baroness was played very well. And to those of you who may not have done their research, if you read the actual book, which I read when I was many years younger, the original 101 Dalmatians by Dodie Smith, the Baroness and Cruella were actually more than half of the main book's focus. In the first half of 101 Dalmatians, the non-Disney version, Cruella and the Baroness did have quite a similar story to the one shown in Cruella 2021. And it was definitely much darker, darlings. So not to break your hearts or offend you, but if I did, to be honest, that's my feedback. What's yours? I'm all ears, darlings. But with all that said, I do believe the Baroness is a true narcissist. She is quite the frightening mother figure, and I think she played the role very well. Emma Thompson was brilliant. And the way she delivered the line about being intrigued and how that never happens was quite enjoyable to watch. So, 10 out of 10 for Emma Thompson's Baroness. She did a brilliant job as the mother character. Yes, Emma Thompson. Slay, my darling Emma Thompson, who is much older than me, but I digress. I really enjoyed Emma Thompson's work on this film. And side note, I guess the production team at Disney must have asked Craig Gillespie, the director, how many Emmas do you want on this film? Craig Gillespie simply must have replied, yes. So, now that we've covered that, does it really have to be a scene? Darlings, it really, really does. Cruella was in a box a long time. Now Stella can make the one-way guest appearances. Let's begin. They say there are 5 stages of grief: denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. Well, I'd like to add one more. Revenge. Are you feeling the suspense yet, darlings? That revenge was the reason I died. But I'm getting ahead of myself.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Yes, in the second arc for Cruella, as she embraces the darkness within her for her quest for revenge against the Baroness who, stole her mother's necklace, seemingly her adopted mother's necklace, Cruella begins to become truer to her character. She becomes iconic, she makes art and trouble, and she does it brilliantly, in my personal subjective opinion. Do you want to be my dog, darlings? And no Dalmatians were harmed in the making of that coat. So please don't be so easily offended, my dears. So, let us begin. I find that the most iconic look for the midway part of the film was once the moth ruined the Baroness's show for the spring collection, the spring show. I feel that Cruella slayed with her half-black, half-Dalmatian faux fur coat. It looked lovely on her, and I quite appreciated it. If you have not seen my Korean pop-related videos, you would not know that I cosplay Cruella unless you're a long-time fan, my darlings. So let us continue. I do think Cruella's pursuit of revenge did corrupt her. But I also think that was part of her evolution. She took what the Baroness did and fixed it, which I appreciate. I think Cruella's pursuit of revenge was both helpful and harmful, as she became somewhat more villainous, yet slightly more sympathetic in this version. Not as Disney-esque, and also not as Dottie Smith wrote it exactly because, again, in the original non-Disney book, things were much, much darker. Now let us continue with our discussions of the other individual characters who also slay. Darlings. I want to make art, artsy, and I want to make trouble. I'm just getting started, darling. You in? Yes, arty, as far as I know, according to Disney's pamphlets and announcements, is one of the first, allegedly one of the first, if we're not counting Finding Dory, openly gay characters to be in a Disney film. And while he is the shop proprietor of Second Time Around, which Second Time Around is a reference to the 102 Dalmatians movie, you have to watch that movie to understand, I will say that Artie is a quite enjoyable character with a slight David Bowie-esque feel to him. He is enjoyable to watch overall. He is very gay in the loveliest way possible, darlings. However, seeing that this is a Disney film, there is actually quite a lot of sugar-coated situations about what would have actually happened had he been openly gay in the 1960s/70s in London. So let's be clear on that. This is very sugar-coated. I wouldn't say censored too deeply because it is a PG-13 film, but I do think Artie, while a great openly gay character, is still a bit sugar-coated, but it is Disney, so what to expect? I believe Artie was well written and well acted overall, and my major gripe with Artie's writing was more or less, I don't know what to say. He was the gay best friend and the seamstress, of course, but he was also not really given full time to develop, I feel. And I think Horace and Archie should be a thing in the next one, possibly. But they have to be careful about that, because it's Disney, of course, darlings. Now let us continue on with our next character. Also, what are your thoughts on Archie? Do you think he deserved more development? Do you think he had enough development? What do you think? Again, be polite in the comments, and don't make me block you, darlings, okay? Thank you. And why am I continuing talking like this, darlings? It's not obvious already. Well, darlings, it's because I have the movie on YouTube in the background, dears. Now let's continue with the rest of the story, darlings. Anita, darling, my darling. And Roger was fired because, well, he's Roger. You see, what both of those words and phrases mean is that Anita and Roger are, in fact, together. And they aren't married by the end of the film, which makes sense as it pays homage to the original 101 Dalmatians live action, as well as the original book from the Disney version. I do think Anita, darling, and Roger are quite a handsome couple as well. And I thought the mid-credit scene was quite cute, with Pongo and Perdita introduced, hopefully for the sequel, darlings, I hope. But I must say that once Roger started playing that song written about Cruella DeVille that he wrote about his experiences, I felt both honored and insulted as a Cruella cosplayer. Excuse me, as Cruella DeVille. But that was his experience. All sarcasm aside, I do enjoy both of Roger and Anita's performances. I do wish it was slightly more focused on how they got together, but it's easy to pick up if you've seen both of the 101 and 102 Dalmatian films, or even read any of the early 101 Dalmatian works from Dodie Smith's or Disney's work. It's not difficult to figure it out, and I think they make quite the handsome couple. So hope to see them in the sequel, of course. Let us continue. And yes, I have to take breaths here and there, talking as gorgeously as I do right now, darlings. What are your thoughts on Roger and Anita, darlings? Do you think they are a darling couple? Bad pun intended. I guess we shall find out. Again, be polite. Now, let us continue. Darling, if I'm going to need to repeat myself a lot, this isn't going to work out.
Ladies and gentlemen, I cannot pretend.
So I told you I died. Estella, that is. Poor thing. She couldn't even get anyone to come to her own funeral. It does seem like an unhappy ending. Murdered tragically by her very own mother. A few things. Before she died, Estella willed her fortune to a dear friend, Cruella DeVille. Goodbye, Estella. She was with her mother now. I'll take it from here. But Cruella is alive. Alright, we should put on some music or something, lighten the mood. And I call that a happy ending. I do think that Estella's rebirth into Cruella was quite interesting, especially after she was almost killed 3 times, according to the math I did, which was counting on my fingers. I think she did a brilliant job of being reborn into the new Cruella of 2021. Again, Emma Stone's performance here was outstanding, opposite her mother in the film, Emma Thompson, the Baroness. And having the Baroness arrested for pushing someone off a cliff. Wrong someone, but there's something about poetic justice that's just so poetic. I do think that, again, the film was a bit dragged on more than it needed to in terms of the mansion ball with all the Cruella cosplayers to fool the Baroness, but I do think overall, when Cruella gained her fortunes as the new Cruella DeVille, it was quite enjoyable to watch. Her rebirth was much tamer than I originally assumed, but she does still seem villainous.
I'm the ringleader here. I'm in control. I'm in control.
Yes, I have to shameless plug now. I personally cosplayed Cruella a lot throughout 2022 due to a certain breakup that I made a few songs about. So, links below to wherever fine music is streamed, darlings. And of course, you shall see some pictures if you haven't already seen my MV for my cover of Look What You Made Me Do by Miss Taylor Swift, darlings. My cover is a bit more enjoyable in my humble, subjective opinion, darlings. Don't say I didn't warn you, though. As for Cruella, played by Emma Stone, I feel that the fashion was on point for what they were achieving, and for the plagiarism allegations sent against Emma Stone particularly, it's Disney, children. It's Disney characters. It's Disney people. It's Disney boys and girls and gays. What did you expect? And The Devil Wears Prada has not been around as long as Cruella, who was created much, 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 much earlier in history. And yes, she was created before our beloved Harley Quinn. I'm speaking strictly about the fictional characters here, so please keep that in mind. I'm a college graduate. I do my research, darlings, so keep that in mind. Cruella was created in the late 50s by Dodie Smith. Harley Quinn was created in the late 90s by Bruce Timm and another creator whose name slips my mind. As for The Devil Wears Prada, that was created by some 2000s filmmakers. Credit to them, except they made their Jasper much less likable, in my humble opinion. No offense to Anne Hathaway, of course, darlings. She needs to play in the next Cruella, as I think that would do justice to all the people still making unnecessary comparisons. And yes, Cruella is an origin story, and one that I think was not needed, but still worth enjoying. Now for some pictures. But first, before the shameless plugs, the soundtrack and the score were both quite enjoyable to listen to. I thoroughly enjoyed every song on the score, both in context of the film and by itself, just listening to the soundtrack by itself. Furthermore, I enjoyed what the soundtrack offered, as Disney did not get the rights to everything when they really should have done that before releasing the movie, but that's another topic. In my opinion, I think the soundtrack was quite enjoyable. The covers were great, specifically John McCrea's version of I Wanna Be Your Dog, which I did not know was a cover until I found out that it was a cover. It was very punk rock, which I quite enjoyed, and I do think Estella becoming Cruella was in fact punk, in my opinion. In my opinion, darlings, I feel that Cruella did disrupt the system. She was in fashion, but she made her own art. And who's to say that she didn't? Who's saying that faking death and seeing death is not punk rock? Explain how that isn't punk rock enough. Politely, of course, darlings. I find her very punk rock, and I grew up listening to Avril Lavigne, who is as pop as it gets. So, darlings, don't make me repeat myself. Cruella is Disney's ideal of punk, and I think it's quite well done. If your ideal of punk is different from mine, by all means, enjoy that, but do not hate on Emma Stone or any of the cast and crew of Cruella for not meeting your possibly warped expectations for the film. As I've mentioned many times already, darlings, it's Disney. What do you expect? Okay, dears? As for the final scene, where they played Sympathy for the Devil by the Rolling Stones, I thought it was a perfect music choice, and it further solidifies that Cruella is not for children. So, take that as you will. What do you think of the Cruella soundtrack? Do you enjoy it? Do you think Disney should have gotten the proper rights to it? Let's see. Alright then. So my final thoughts are quite simple. I think Cruella 2021 is a 10 out of 10 in terms of filmmaking, watching, and especially costume design. Emma Stone's British accent was quite on point. I feel that she learned how to voice the British accent very similarly to Glenn Close in the way she portrayed her voice as Cruella. Emma Thompson as the Baroness, well, she's Emma Thompson. What can I say? And of course, Roger and Anita are great, darlings. And furthermore, when it comes to Jasper and Cruella, I do hope that they are official in the next one. As for any other ideas, what are your ideas for the next Cruella film? Do you want to see a sequel? Do you hope that they leave it as is, which is, in my opinion, perfection? Or do you want them to take their time and create an even better sequel? Darlings, do you want her to go full psycho, Glenn Close style Cruella, or do you want her to be her own version of Cruella in the next film? Which I pray to Jesus is being made, or at least in pre-production now that the strikes are over, in my opinion. Again, these are all my opinions. Say what you will, think what you will, but respectfully so. Of course, no one is always respectful in their own mind, hence why these are not scripted videos. However, I do appreciate you for watching. If you've watched this far, you're the real most valuable person. You are quite patient if you've actually watched this long and actually enjoyed what you saw. I've got a few ideas. Thank you, as always, for watching, darlings. I will see you in my next one, which might have to do with a certain Scarlet Witch. Side note, one reason why that video is taking so long is because I am not watching Disney's properties directly through Disney Plus as part of my boycotting. Hashtag Free Palestine, Free Palestine, Free Palestine. And yes, I will not be watching anything on Disney Plus. So once my WandaVision DVD gets here, and after I've rewatched it and cried my eyes out, then we shall get into that. As for now, thank you for watching. I've got a few ideas. And enjoy these end credits, dears. I've got a few ideas. Hope you guessed my name.
Ladies and gentlemen, I cannot pretend again. If you choose to stay, so be it. Let it be upon you. You fools.
You think you're real cool?
Yeah.